Could I ask Stephen, and Irina to come back up here, please, and join us on the platform? And we're going to, it's your opportunity now to ask some questions. So if we can have some roving mics, that would be good. We've got some roving mics, that's excellent. So do we have any questions for our panel? Lady in black, just here, please. Lindsay's on her way. If you can remember your name and organisation and a quick question, please.
Okay, it's Kay Hedges from Remit Training. I'd like to ask about Prevent. We're a national provider, training provider. We're based, our head office is in Nottingham, so we have very close contact with the East Midlands person, your equivalent. What I find very difficult to put into our risk assessment and action plan is establishing what the levels of risk are across the country. Yes. Have you got any advice on how I can get hold of that? Because our contact is struggling to find that for us.
Okay, I've actually spoken to Sam recently, and I held an event for the West Midlands region. I think there's a couple of people here. I'm not sure whether they are here or not, but we held an event for that very reason, that people very really find out what that national threat is. I will speak to Sam again with the possibility. I actually had somebody who came up from London and presented that national threat level. And if you feel that there is a need, I'm more than happy to speak to Sam and see if we can actually do something jointly, because there was more of a need again in the West Midlands. People wanted to hear that again. You can get that information, but obviously, a lot of it is very, very sensitive. So they come out, they'll do the presentation, but they won't leave you with any of that information for obvious reasons. It is quite scary, if I'm quite honest with you. But I'll speak to you at the end about how we can get that information to the East Midlands as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I'm keeping you fit, Lindsay.
I need it every time I keep my exercise.
Gentleman here, please.
Hi, Kashif Taj from IBM, and apologies, it's another Prevent question for Hifsa. We've now achieved employer-provider status, so we're very keen to become Prevent duty compliant. Got a couple of concerns around thinking about risk assessments and risk assessing our learners and how that is compatible with IBM overall global policy. So what advice could you give on that, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
What I'm going to direct you to, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but the Education and Training Foundation website have actually got a lot of information on there, and they also have model risk assessments and action plans for you to use. And again, advice to anybody, if you're unsure about what to put in there, feel free to use those, but definitely link in with your coordinators, because what we can then do is talk to you about whether something is relevant or there is something else that you need to add, depending on the number of apprentices that you have as well. But it's definitely a good website to have a look at.
Okay, thank you. Are there any non-Prevent questions? Any questions for Stephen and Irina, or Stephen from SEMPTA?
I've got a question here, which is
back over there,
essentially
right.
for Stephen, but I'm Sarah Pears. Hello, Stephen, from the Women's Engineering Society. Stephen, earlier today, various different speakers talked about things like flexibility and part-time apprenticeships, etc. I'm just wondering if SEMTA has a view on that. I think in terms of inclusion, particularly for people in intersections, as in gender and disabilities, LGBT plus disabilities, etc. That sort of ability to have flexible part-time apprenticeships would be great.
Yeah, hi Sarah. I can't really comment on what people said earlier because I made it here about 5 minutes before I actually came on stage, but broadly speaking, and the short answer is yes. I mean, we know that flexible working patterns work in terms of attracting more women to get into engineering and keep more women in engineering, particularly when they reach childbearing age, when it comes to doing a job of work. So I see no reason why that wouldn't work for apprenticeships as well. And I don't know if there's anything that specifically prevents you actually from having an apprenticeship that's part-time rather than full-time, but it's certainly something that I've heard a number of engineering companies that I've spoken to when I've been traveling around express an interest in doing. And it's something as well that I've raised and continue to raise when I speak about apprenticeships, and particularly apprenticeship diversity issues, when I speak to civil servants and people at departments as well. So I'll just keep on with it for you.
Okay. Any thoughts from a prison aspect about full-time, part-time working when prisoners are released? Anything you can say to us about that?
I think the biggest factor is salary.
I'm not sure you're on. Are we on?
1, 2.
I think one of the biggest impacts is salary, what they're going to be paid when they come out. Some of them may have commitments when they're out, and timing will be important there. If they're restricted in terms of when they get back at night, if prisoners are released with a tag, they have to be back by a certain time, and that can really impact. If they don't get back on time, they immediately return to prison if they break their rules. So it would help. It would certainly help.
And the other thing is very many prisoners have reporting restrictions on them. So they might have to attend a police station once a day at a certain time, etc. So employers have got to be flexible, or apprenticeships have got to be flexible to allow that sort of reasonable adjustment to be made as well.
Good, thank you. Okay, thank you. Gentleman at the back there. Well done, Lindsay. Great job.
Yeah. My name's Del Gibson from Platform 38. We started a programme 6 months ago in the prison service, especially in being able to give voluntary service, working alongside a garden project and getting the day release through the prison governors. For some reason or another, that fell through and actually being completed. Is there any way that you can actually help to support us in being able to restart that programme?
Steve and Irene, it's got to be a question for you guys.
Sorry,
I'll let you decide which one of you can.
it depends very much where it was.